Thanks for joining me today. Got a build upgrade video for you today. Not upgrading much, mainly just upgrading some cooling components. So I have here a new CPU water block. This is an EK quantum velocity water block for the AMD Ryzen AM4 processors. And currently I already have a water-cooled system, and I have a nice Corsair water block, which is great. This system here, kind of a mix between Corsair and EK components, but I do have an EK water block on my RTX 3090, and there was actually a really good deal. This cooler water block was, I think, normally like $150, and it was on sale, I think, President's Day weekend, and I picked it up for like $50. So, and it's an AMD edition one, so it's kind of nice. I also got a 120 millimeter radiator, which I plan to put on the back. Right now, I currently have a 140 millimeter fan with a fan filter. I have a 120 millimeter Corsair SP fan, which I plan to replace it with to match this cooler. And yeah, so basically, I'm going to drain the system, and then once the system's drained, I'm going to install the new radiator and then bridge connection. So I'll disconnect this connection here, run that into the radiator, from the radiator into the cooler. That way, right now, currently, the way the loop is configured, water comes from the radiator, so theoretically it should have been cooled down, goes to the CPU, collects heat, and then kind of goes to the GPU as well. So the GPU is kind of getting recirculated water, and it still get recirculated water with this 120 milliliter radiator in the back here, but at least that will kind of cool it down a little bit more, so it's not getting as kind of hot water or warmed water already. So yeah, let's get going. So I'll take the panel off. Yeah, so EK sells these pre-done systems. So the 360 millimeter radiator, the reservoir, a pump, not this pump, but a pump, and the fittings came with the set. And from there, I upgraded, added the GPU block. The original pump died, so then I replaced it with this pump I have right here, which is a nice EK RGB pump. Now for the motherboard, I have an AMD X570 board. This is the Asus WS, so it stands for Workstation Board, which is a great board. It's all kind of business, no kind of frills. One downside though, it doesn't have RGB controllers, so I have to use these dumb adapters that basically run from like SATA power to and use a controller, but that's because the board didn't even bother with putting RGB controllers on it, which is a good and bad thing, you know. All right, so start draining the system. Now, the coolant is a special kind of solution that has like antimicrobial factors and also corrosion resistant materials, and it's also meant to be non-conductive, but over time it can start to collect kind of metallic properties and become conductive. So I'm going to go ahead and replace this water, and actually it reminds me I'm supposed to buy distilled water for this process, but I didn't, so I'll have to figure something out with that. Oh, actually, you know what? I have water from work, and that should be pretty filtered, so that should work. My water bottles, I'll grab that. And everyone, Tatsumaki decided to join us. Hello, Tatsumaki. You're not helping. Okay. Now from here, what I could do is close this guy. All right, so at this point, started getting a little frustrated. So of course the shirt had to come off because I had to cool down. And I sped up the footage just because this entire process probably took me a while. I stayed up really late getting this done. So right now I have the footage playing at, I believe, 700 times speed. So yeah, so had to replace all the fittings. And then I had to assemble the system. Here I'm removing the rear 140 millimeter intake fan, which I use a 140 millimeter fan filter on. And I still use a fan filter, and I have it set up with a 120 millimeter Corsair SP for static pressure fan, and an EK kind of actually like double like thickness radiator. So it's actually pretty significant cooling. Now here I made the mistake of installing the fan on the inside as an exhaust, which is not really incorrect. That's kind of what that rear case is meant for. But I personally use the rear fan as an intake. The reason I do that is because I also have two intake fans on the front there. As you can see, those white or clear 120 millimeter fans on the front. And then I have three 120 millimeter fans on the top as exhaust fans for the radiator. And they're low profile fans, so they actually, if I couldn't really fit normal size fans, it would hit the logic board, the motherboard. And so, and those, they're low profile fans, so they probably don't move as much air as like full size fans. And they also are trying to go through a 360 millimeter or 90 millimeter. Was it 360? I think it's a 360. Yeah, 360 millimeter radiator on the top, which is very restrictive. So there's less exhaust than there is intake, which is as I do on purpose because that actually creates a positive pressure, a high pressure inside the case, causing all air to try and expel from the seams. So this case has quite a bit of mesh, and that mesh will constantly be a passive exhaust, which will keep dust from getting inside the system because all the intake fans are filtered, so it keeps it pretty clean. Here I'm reinstalling the 360 millimeter radiator. So 360 millimeter because it's three 120 millimeter fans that it holds. So I have there's the case, then there's the three fans, and then there's the radiator. Now here I'm actually making another mistake. I'm installing the fans in the wrong orientation. I have them set up as intakes. When I was testing my system, I noticed some not so great temperatures, and I realized that the way it was set up was just not optimal. If I had those 320 millimeter slim fans as exhaust, which I eventually the next day I basically took it apart again and reconfigured it. And as exhaust, they move a lot more air, which was keeping the system a lot cooler. So, and then I also changed the orientation of the rear fan. I have that set up now as an intake, so I'm actually using the fan filter again. And this time it's like the case, and then the fan, and then the radiator, which caused me to have to redo my plumbing for the system. Which honestly, the first time I finished it, I had a bad kink at one point, and so when I was redoing some of the work, I was able to correct some of those initial mistakes, and I was very happy with the end final product. Now this case, it's kind of a Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super kind of theme to it. So it's a white, primarily white and black color scheme. And I used to use white liquid, but I've actually had at one point used purple before that, and I really like the purple. And so that kind of gives it like a Frieza kind of color scheme. And then on the side panel, I have what is it, a character or a symbol. It's I believe it's a symbol for Goku or Kakarot. I think Goku from Dragon Ball Z. And here I'm refilling the system. Was really disappointed with this refill bag. I think I was probably using it wrong, but yeah, I made this process a lot longer. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically filling up the reservoir. Once the reservoir's full, I start the system, which starts the pump. I wait till the reservoir gets exhausted into the pump and into the rest of the loop. And then I start refilling the reservoir again, and I basically keep on repeating this process until the entire loop's full. And then I keep running the system to get air bubbles out, and then refilling it again because that's going to cause the fluid to start to um, get low in the reservoir because it's starting to fill up some of the space in the rest of the loop and the radiators, for example. Yeah, and I really like this purple. It really looks nice with the system. Um, the specs for the system, I think I mentioned them earlier, but I'll go over them again. This is a Ryzen 9 5900X. That's a 12 core CPU with hyperthreading or SMT, simultaneous multi-threading. So it's 24 threads. I think it usually hovers around 4.5 gigahertz stock. I got a X570 board. It's a Asus workstation board. I got 64 gigs of G.Skill 3200 megahertz, 64 gigs of G.Skill Royale RAM. I got a RTX 3090, RTX 3090 with an EK water block, which I installed. That was fun. I got the EK CPU block, EK reservoir, EK pump, and two EK radiators. I use soft tubing. I personally prefer soft tubing. I do a lot of upgrades to my system, so I like the flexibility of being able to replace components a little easier. It's much harder just being a liquid cooled system, so I don't want to make it even more harder and have rigid tubing, which anytime I want to make changes, I have to redo the entire tubing. So yeah. So here's the system. This is a really fun project. Took quite a bit of time, but I'm glad I was able to document it. Yeah, so this is, you can see the kink there. It's in the it's the one that goes to the graphics card. Looks sick though. It's very clean. Very happy with the results.